Hello! I am here with my January wrap-up. This is the most books I have read in a month ever to my memory, or since I've been logging it at least, so since like 2014, 2015. This is a wrap-up. I've got all the books in front of me. There is a lot. So to say this is going to be a super speedy wrap-up is more of a necessity than just an enjoyment thing at the moment. If you are new to my super speedy wrap-ups, I basically throw books at myself. I talk kind of fast. I give you very, very concise thoughts and feelings on the books, and I tell you my star rating. So I'm just going to start throwing books at myself really, because I don't know how I've done this. I really don't. I think it helps that January was 5 million days long, but also the fact that I think I just needed to escape to fiction because it was such a long month with the lockdown as well. And yeah, I'm really proud of myself with everything I've read. I think it's worth noting that if I'm not enjoying a book, I DNF it. So I did DNF The Mask of Mirrors, which was one that I read about 100 pages of. Won't be including it within this wrap-up, but I did DNF that one. It just wasn't grabbing me. It was too political, it was too heavy, and I didn't fancy that kind of a book when I was reading it, so unfortunately I did have to put that one down. But onto the books that I did finish and pretty much rated all very highly. It's been a very good reading month. First up, we've got A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. This is the first in the ACOTAR series. This one is very different from the other two in the series. A lot of people go into this one, don't like it, and therefore don't continue. Basically, this follows Feyre as she goes on this wacky and wild mission, getting swept up all into the world of Fae, because she basically dumps herself in the middle of this issue that she's caused, and just kind of gets swept up in the politics of it all, the fantasy, the magic. This was a reread for me. I love this series very, very much. Some people call it trash, I call it fun. It's entertaining, it keeps me very engaged, and I was rereading this one because I'm getting ready for the release of A Court of Silver Flames. Gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. That was an excellent catch. This is a book about Chloe who wants to get a life. She enlists Red to help her achieve these things on her list that she thinks will help her get that life. Chloe is actually suffering from chronic pain or chronic illness. Now, I hadn't read a book like this before, and I actually found that aspect of it really interesting because I myself have scoliosis, which is constant pain for me pretty much. Whether or not it's like a lower scale or higher scale varies. But to read about a character that also experienced some kind of pain constantly, whilst I don't have chronic pain, and so therefore I know that I can't relate to her in that sense, I do relate in the fact that there was constant pain, and when she was making note to that, I found that really interesting to read from the perspective of a character with that kind of thing going on. So that was really interesting. However, this book did let itself down for me on the actual characterization and relationships of the characters together. So Chloe and Red have a romantic relationship that's pretty clear on the front. It says love wasn't on her to-do list, and there were just parts of it that felt very awkward and strange for me. I felt like Red as a character almost had two different sides to him that didn't fit with the characterization of him or the writing of him. I've said this before, and I've said I don't really understand why I feel like this, but I felt like this more sexual related scenes felt really uncomfortable from Red's perspective. Like, I just felt like he was very imperative, very controlling, and I didn't like that about him. I can't exactly place my finger on why it felt too uncomfortable because I'm happy reading about sex scenes, I like reading about them, but for me, this one just didn't quite hit the mark. And having said that, in vlogs, couple of people have agreed with me and they've said they also thought there was something uncomfortable about it. So if it wasn't for that, I think I would have rated it higher, but I did give this one 3 out of 5 stars. But I think if we take that out, it probably would have been a 4-star read. That was such a controlling part of it. It just didn't sit quite right with me, but I still really liked it. So 3.5, it was a good book. Then I read The Mime Order by Samantha Shannon. This is the second book in the Bone Season series. This was a partial reread for me. I've read half of this book before and then I stopped for absolutely no reason, so I wanted to keep going to prep for The Mask Falling. Gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I can't really tell you what it's about because obviously that would be a spoiler for the first book, but I did enjoy this one once it picked up a little bit. I think it was very slow to start with, but once it got going, I feel like this world is so immersive and Samantha Shannon's writing is so clever that you just can't help but fall into it and just love the kind of bizarre dystopian world that we're plopped into. Then I read A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Bridget Kemmerer. This is the third in the Cursebreaker series and it is the final book where we get to see Ren and Grey and Harper and Leomara and we see how everything concludes. Honestly, this one did disappoint me a little bit. It's come out as a 4 out of 5 star on Core Pile, and I think actually in my head it's more of a 3-star. The characters are good, they are really well written. However, there are some aspects of this that just fell flat for me. The action at the end was fantastic and felt very epic. However, throughout I just felt it dragged a little bit. So whilst it says it's a 4-star on Core Pile, I think we're kind of given an honorary 3-star because it just fell flat. It wasn't what I was hoping for the end of this trilogy. Then a reread of Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. I read this book years ago when it first came out and I thought it was okay. I didn't really get the hype of it. But obviously everyone is going nuts about it still. We've got the next one coming out I think in May time, and I thought I'll give it another go. So I gave it another go and loved it way more than I did the first time. Ended up being a 4 out of 5 stars. I've also read the novellas This Winter, Nick and Charlie, either side of this, and I really enjoyed those ones, so they made me want to pick this one up, and I'm really glad I did because yeah, I ended up really loving it. Then I read The Song Rising by Samantha Shannon in an attempt to get myself up to speed for The Mask of Falling. Again, I'm not going to tell you what this one's about because it would be spoilers, but it is the 3rd book in the Bone Season series. And I think, in my opinion, each of these books just keeps getting better. This one didn't broach into the 5-star gap because I just don't know if I can do that. I'm not a huge dystopian fan, so I make an exception for this series because it is still slightly a normal world. I say that, it's not like we're walking around with ash clouds and cities are completely ruined in some aspects, but I did really enjoy following Paige's journey. We see a lot more struggles from her in this book, and I like that she is a flawed character, so I gave this one another 4 out of 5 stars. See, there's many highly rated books in this wrap-up. Pretending to throw myself a book, because then I read The Dawn Chorus by Samantha Shannon, which is the novella in between The Song Rising and The Mask Falling. I actually enjoyed this novella better than I enjoyed the other books, because this was just basically a short story of how we get from book 3 to book 4, and I just liked that. I liked that it was showing what happened to Paige in between and looking more into the experiences she's had. Again, it's so hard to talk about it properly, but that one as well got a 4 out of 5 stars from me. Honestly, so many 4 stars. It's not because I rate generously, it is literally just because I will not read a book if I'm not loving it. Then I read The Twisted Tree by Rachel Burge. This is one I worked with the publishers on an ad for, but I wanted to read it off my own back as well because it is a Norse mythology retelling, and I love that kind of thing. I find Norse mythology really interesting, and this certainly went into the depths of exploring that kind of relationship with the gods and the people and how the main character can kind of get swept up in this story. It was a horror kind of fantasy as well. It certainly gave me the creeps when I was reading it late at night because there was just some moments of like dark deserted houses and noises and creatures, and it just captured that quite well. Overall, it didn't completely wow me, but I did enjoy it and I enjoyed the atmosphere, but I ended up giving this one a 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Women in Power by Mary Beard, which is a collection of feminist essays popped together by Mary Beard. I think there's 3 different essays in here. Really, really interesting. I'm trying to get more into reading non-fiction, so if you're interested in learning about a history of feminism in a very short way and about women in power and how women have been regarded in power in the past, this involves references to legends, to myths, to history, to art. It's really, really interesting read. I don't rate non-fiction at the moment because I haven't quite worked out how I rate non-fiction because it just isn't the same. Obviously, Corpile helps me rating my fiction, so I haven't got anything to give this one. There's a couple of non-fictions that I've not rated yet. I might think more on that, or I might just leave them as unrated. I don't know. I'm gonna have a think about how I do that, but at the moment they remain unrated, but I did think this one was really well done, and it's not very long, so it's quite easy to get through. Then I read Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. This was my first 5-star read of the month and therefore the whole year. I loved this. I am just really, really enjoying the Nick and Charlie books. This obviously continues on from Heartstopper Volume 1. I would say that whilst these books are super cute and super lovely and beautifully done, they also do tackle some really important issues such as coming out in school and what it is like to be going through that process in school, bullying, mental health. They look at eating disorders a little as well. Alice Oseman covers so much and she's so talented, and I cannot wait for book 4 because I need more. So yeah, it's no surprise really this one came out as 5 stars. Then I read this little comic series called Book Love by Debbie Tung. This was so cute. It literally just demonstrates lots of different strips about being a book lover. It is so relatable. The art style is really just so sweet. Look at that. If you know someone that is a book lover, or if you yourself are a book lover, which you probably are if you're watching this video, I would highly advise this. I gave this one 5 stars because honestly, the character that we were following was just the sweetest little bean, and they just felt so relatable, and it just made me smile the whole time I was reading it. So read this. It was really good. The next book I read was Wonderland by Juno Dawson. I'll put a picture here because I don't have a physical copy of this one, but oh my god, this blew my mind. This was an Alice in Wonderland retelling in modern day. It was trippy. There is drug use, there is also trigger warnings for sexual assault as well as drug use, but generally this completely blew me away. The atmosphere captured the Alice in Wonderland setting perfectly. There was talk of sexuality, there was exploration of gender. It just did such a good job. Our main character is a trans girl, and the way it follows her narrative is so interesting because we also discover her finding out that people know that she's a trans girl and that's something she wanted to keep a secret, and how she reacts to that kind of thing and how that's changed her experiences. And it's just so interesting This whole book, everything it covers, I just absolutely was hooked throughout the whole thing, the atmosphere, and it's so interesting because of the way that it transforms the characters that we know from Alice in Wonderland and personifies them and just makes them these humans, and it's just very, very good book, and I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Bayron. This is set 200 years after the Cinderella story that we know. We're in a patriarchal society, it's very much a man's world, and it follows our main character who wants to break that because she does not want to marry a man, she wants to marry a woman, or at least be with a woman, or a girl, I suppose this is YA. This story, I really enjoyed the feminist approach to it, the fact that we were down with the patriarchy. The only thing that hung me up a little bit here is the main character was very much the type of character that was like, I'm not like the other girls. It felt more traditional in the YA sense there, but I did enjoy the fact that this was a different spin on the head of the normal Cinderella story that we know. It didn't blow me away, but I thought as a Cinderella retelling, I enjoyed reading it, and as a retelling in general, I'm glad I've read this one. I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is Taylor Jenkins Reid's latest book. It comes out in May. I was very kindly sent this for a review copy by the publishers. This follows a family as they go throughout being children to adults and this party that they host every year, and we flip back between the modern day of the party and then looking back at their childhood and how their time has changed and how they've changed as people. This is very much a character driven story, so it is slower because the plot points are all centered around characters rather than big action moments. It did take me a lot longer to get through, but I really enjoyed seeing how those characters were built up. Taylor Jenkins Reid is a fantastic author and I love what she does. I love how she writes historical fiction in the sense, it feels weird calling something set in the last 100 years historical fiction, but it is historical fiction. So this is set within the 60s up until the 80s, and it just completely swept me away with the character stories. I felt there was a good level of drama, kept me interested. Again, it did take me longer to read, and I think for that reason it would have been a 5-star, but I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Heartstopper Volume 3, and oh my god, another fantastic one. I think of all the Heartstoppers, this is my favourite. There's a trip to Paris in this one, which I absolutely loved, and I just love these. I feel like I'm just going to say the same things about all of them because I don't want to give you spoilers, but this one got 5 out of 5 stars for me because I just honestly adored it. Then I finished my reread of A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. This is the second book in the ACOTAR series, and this one, I didn't remember it being quite like this. There was bits I forgot about it, and I actually quite liked the first one in comparison to this one. I still really like this one, but there was parts that I'd forgotten that I found slower in this one that I just completely slipped my mind, but I still loved it. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I am building towards ACOTAR, which I'm reading at the moment, and I am very excited for A Court of Silver Flames because honestly, this series is just fun. It just keeps me gripped with the action. I think that's why I prefer these kind of stories, because they are just constant action and I need that to keep me engaged. So I just find them really good fun. Probably worth saying that those 2 Sarah J Maas books were actually audiobooks because that is relevant. This next book is also an audiobook. I don't have a physical copy of this one, so here's a picture. It's Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Renée Edo-Lodge. It's also narrated by Renée Edo-Lodge, and I think she's a really fantastic narrator. She's obviously, because she's written this, her passion seeps through in her voice. I actually had to turn the speed down on this one because I really, really wanted to absorb what she was saying. You've probably seen this book dotted about the internet. There are several chapters within this. I think there's about 8 chapters. Each chapter is looking at a different theme or topic, and it's all based off of a blog post that she originally wrote and then turned into this book. This is so informative, it's so interestingly done, and I think that the way that she writes it as well is really gripping and compelling with the use of different types of media such as interviews and looking back on historical case studies. It was a really interesting read, and again, as I said, I'm not getting my head around rating non-fiction books yet, so I haven't rated this one, but I mean, it's going to be up in the highs regardless because it just covered so many important topics and I feel like everyone should read this book. I just need to figure out how I'm rating things. So that was the book. I don't know what I'm rating it, but it was really good and I would really advise it, and I thought it was very informative. Then I read The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon, which is another ebook, so here's my picture. My copy still hasn't arrived, I don't know why. It's very sad. I want it to arrive. This was the fourth book in the Bone Season series. It came out this month, or last month now that you're watching this, and I really enjoyed this one. I'm not going to tell you crazily what it was about, but it's set in Paris, which is interesting. It follows some mild peril, and there was a lot of action. It ended before I expected it to because reasons, and I thought it was really good. I thought it was really gripping, and I think these books just keep getting better and better, and you can see Samantha Shannon as a writer evolving over the time as she's writing more and more of them. So gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read We Should All Be Feminist by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This is a short feminist essay, and I want to preface this by saying that this author is actually someone that has come out online as agreeing with J.K. Rowling on the transphobic stuff she said last year. Look into it yourself if you want to know more about it, because I'm not going to go into immense detail, but there is basically just one line that she's quoted as saying on the internet that is in relation to what J.K. Rowling has said. I didn't know that going into this book, and I had about 20 pages left before someone informed me, so I did finish this one, and as far as feminist essays go, it was interesting. It didn't say anything completely groundbreaking, but I think what was the most interesting aspect of this is the main character. Not main character, it's a narrator, because it's a non-fiction. My head is stuck in a lot of fiction. The real life human that has written this is from Nigeria, so it was looking at her experiences of feminism in Nigeria and telling stories from her childhood and things, which was really interesting to read about, and it isn't something I knew too much about. So whilst it was very short, I did find it informative. But yes, please do be aware going into this one. I don't know if her other works include anything relating to what she said with the transphobic things with J.K. Rowling, but again, I don't know what her other writing is going to be like. And lastly, I read Fence, the graphic novel, volume 1, and this is by lots of people: C.S. Passat, Joanna the Mad, and Joanna Lafuente. This is basically just about guys at a private school fencing or a boarding school fencing, trying to get into their fencing team to beat this other school that seems to be unbeatable. I liked it. It was a bit different to what I normally read. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars because it's not completely gripped me, because it's probably quite different to what I normally read, and it's not, I don't often go for a sporty type book. I know there's going to be romance forming, but it wasn't formed in this one yet, so I think hopefully the others will be a bit more exciting and engaging. But I did like it, and I like that it was setting the story, and I do have the second one, so I think I'll read that in Feb. Oh my god, that was the hardest wrap-up to film that I think I've ever filmed. Whew! There were so many interruptions, and I got my words wrong so many times that you won't have seen because I'll just have edited it. So please, if there's anything there that I said and you're like, why did you say that? I filmed this like for a long time. I filmed it for a while, okay? So please give it a thumbs up because this took a lot of time. That's the last time I'm reading 20 books in 1 month, but oh my god, yeah, I've got to take the thumbnail now. That's going to be great fun. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm so sorry, but I'm not even going to do a proper outro because I just feel pooped and my back hurts. So thanks for watching this video. Those are the 20 books I read. Yes, there's a lot of high rated books, but I really enjoyed a lot of what I read. By the way, I think it's worth saying for me, 3 stars and above is basically I really liked it. 1 to 2 stars is I didn't like it. 1 is I absolutely hated it. 2 is I didn't like it. 3 is I liked it a lot. 4, I really loved it. And 5, it blew my mind. So anything that's a 3-star, I still really enjoyed. I always feel like I need to say that because for some people 3 stars is bad, whereas for me it's good. So yeah, please give this video a thumbs up purely because of how much my back hurts right now for filming it. So just, you know, the thumbs up will support my spine. Or comment your favourite book that you read this month. What was your favourite book that you read, or in January, your favourite book? Mine was Wonderland because that blew my mind. And subscribe to see more of my face and shorter wrap-ups on your feed in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. Keep smiling, stay positive, and don't film insanely long wrap-ups like me, kids.